Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the latest podcast of Minds of Markets. And there's a lot going on in the marketplace, everybody. And certainly glad that we have our guest today, Peter Thomas. For those of you that don't know Peter, he has been involved in the gold space for a really, really long time. He is chairman of AU Security, AU as in the metal, gold, the gold medal, and he's acting as the chair of offshore development.
That is correct.
A licensed floor broker. He was a filling broker also for who remembers the Hunt brothers, right? And Peter, we're going to get to that because people that don't know, they got to hear stories about the Hunt brothers. So he was a filling broker for the Hunt brothers way back when in the silver pit. And that was back in the days when silver ran up to what, like $50 an ounce or so.
I was the first person to sell silver at $50. And I was in a cab going to the Metals and Mines show in London, and a guy in the cab looked over at me and he went, "I was the guy that bought that $50 lot from you." And we just started laughing, man. Two old gray hairs in a cab in London. It was just funny.
That's awesome. You guys, everybody will see Peter also. He's on Bloomberg. He's on CNBC. In fact, I think you were on both of those yesterday.
That is correct.
Yeah, I know you write lots of articles, lots of pieces that are out there, Futures Magazine, and you've got a podcast of your own, which is on YouTube every Friday, which we'll get into that as well. But this is certainly an interesting time, not just for equities, which is what we talk about quite often here, but about gold. So let's get right into it. Why are we at all-time highs, basically, of gold? Past 2,400 here. There's lots of news, lots of reasons out there. Unpredictability, uncertainty. It's the go-to, right, in times of uncertainty. Also, central banks just buying up record amounts of gold over the last 12 months or so. What say you?
Well, I mean, let's hit the last point you just hit. I mean, it is absolutely incredible that last year, globally, central banks bought over 1,000 tons of gold, and we had players in the gold market. Like I get a call and they go, "Azerbaijan wants to buy a ton." I'd go, "Who the hell is that?" I mean, we have people from everywhere who are now converting fiat currency into hard assets. And it has been fascinating. And on top of that, we had 17 months of the Central Bank of China coming in with standing orders for 13 tons, 14 tons. And it never stopped. It was absolutely amazing. So
it's crazy. I mean, it's headlines all over the place. Why are central banks doing this? Let's get right to the point. Why are they doing this? Right? Is everyone around the world expecting some catastrophe, or is it protection? What is it?
It's a myriad of things. So let's get the big paintbrush out and try to cover a bit of it so we can make the picture clear for our viewers. And the first thing is there is a massive participation in Brexit right now. And if you're not up on Brexit, please become up on Brexit, people, because it is a force. It's a reality. We're having most of the African countries, Central American countries, I'm very active in the Middle East. A lot of Middle Eastern countries are in. China is getting in, and a lot of the settlements in transactions on Brexit will be done with gold. So participants in that, for example, I'm affiliated with one of the largest brokers in the world in Dubai, one of the biggest refineries, 40,000 square feet of refining space. It's massive. And they're seeing a little slowdown in the gold coming into them from Africa, in that a lot of them are vaulting it rather than selling it. And they're sending their euros over for payment to get rid of their euros that they used to stockpile, and they're going into hard asset.
Because
of Brexit And also, let's touch on geopolitical situations.
Oh, yeah. So there we go.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a hot war going on in the Ukraine, and we have Putin, who is no one to be taken lightly, going, oh, by the way, I really don't have any problems with using nuclear weapons as a first strike option. And everybody went, pardon me?
Right.
What did he just say? And a lot of people are nervous. And China, 11, 12 violations in Taiwan space this month alone.
Yep.
And by the way, just to throw something else in the pot, we have 2 nuclear attack subs from Russia sitting in pens 90 miles off of Florida. Yep. So, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, let alone what's going on in the elections, an assassination attempt. That's just the current stuff. So there's a lot of anxiety, let's call it, in the world. And when people get really nervous, they come into my field and they start accumulating gold.
So is it possibly a bubble then? Let me take the other side of that, right?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think that's a very realistic ask. And in my opinion, initially, we started accumulating for all of our clients in large quantities at 17 and 1800 because I felt we were going to test 2000. It really looked strong to me. And it kept right on going. So are we at a bubble? It takes so much money to keep a market elevated, as you know. Is it there? I think globally it is, but we will see setbacks, which in my opinion will be buying opportunities. If we get a pop, $100, $200, we get a little panic selling, week longs get out. Remember, a lot of people buy on margin. I'm on the physical side, so that it doesn't matter what the market does. It's sitting in your vault or wherever you have it, so it's going to come back at some point. I mean, basically, gold has been a valued commodity asset since Tutankhamun's time. They used to pay the workers on the pyramids with gold. So it has a pretty good run for me,
So let me ask you, you just touched on something that I think most, I don't want to say novice investors, but probably most people out there don't really understand. When you say physical gold,
right?
Okay, someone buys physical gold,
mm-hmm.
right? Does that mean literally the UPS guy shows up to their house and say, okay, here's your brick of gold.
Absolutely does. Right? No question about it. Let me tell you something. I've been selling coins and bars for almost 40 years on and off. And there is no delay. We send it registered, insured. Even the post office, the smaller stuff, will send through the post office, insured up to $25,000, and it comes to your door. Brings the doorbell. You sign off for it. It's yours. And whatever
isn't that unbelievable though? If you think about how archaic that is, yet how substantive it is that people want to have this physical asset.
Oh yeah, and it takes me back to I used to have an elderly Asian gentleman come in, and his 2 daughters would bring him into my office, and when he came in, every month he would come in and buy some coins. And after 6 or 7 months, I had a hot plate. I had some tea. He would sit. We would have tea. I'd talk with his daughters. His English was still a little broken. And I asked him, I said, why do you buy gold coins every month? And he said, when I was a young man, I was an officer in the Chinese police. And in my province, there was a revolution. And they were hanging all the police officers. And I grabbed my wife, who was pregnant at the time, got on a boat, traded my pistol for a ferry ride, went to Hong Kong, and in my belt, that I held my pistol on, they had the old Sam Browning style. Yeah. He said I had 5 gold sovereign coins sewn into it. And I would go to the market and shave off a piece and buy rice or pay my rent or get clothes or whatever we needed. And he said, if I hadn't had gold, I would have died. And, and I always think back to that, but it goes to it definitely is archaic, but This wasn't that long ago.
Well, but you talk about things that do stand the test of time, right?
Yeah.
And in the economic world, let's call it, there's probably nothing that stands the test of time more so than gold.
That's so true. But let's touch on something that I think is very interesting to your viewers, is that when Nixon depegged gold and took us off the gold standard, and something very interesting happened. The Department of Education reached out to all of the upper echelon universities, Harvard, Wharton, Princeton, and said, hey, you no longer have to teach about gold in your MBA programs because it's no longer a currency. So we're just giving you a heads up, and
great foresight there. Great foresight.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. But when I learned about that from a friend of mine who was a professor at Wharton, a great, great guy, and I said to him, what did you do? He said, well, we just took it out of curriculum. We would spend usually a week on it, talk about how it transacts and where it's stored, things like that. We'd have guys like you come in, Pete. I said, yeah. I said, okay. But so now what? He goes, it's just nobody knows about it. So they get calls from very serious individuals running funds, COOs running funds going, what's this gold stuff? My clients are asking for it, and everybody says I should call you. So tell me what I do, because they want to put 5% or 10% of their equity into hard assets. It's interesting.
So given the landscape that has really changed over the last several months here, in my opinion, the economy is really slowing down. The Fed should probably cut now, not wait till September. That's my opinion. But the landscape has changed now where, nothing's a certainty, but fairly certain we're going to get a cut in September, probably one more later in the year. If anything, the trend, the bias right now is towards rates coming in a little bit. Is that really going to impact how people perceive gold or, actually the price of gold?
Well, it's a great question. And, this morning, just an hour or two ago, we had the PMI released, and basically it showed manufacturing being reduced. And also remember, higher interest rates lend more headwinds to gold because gold doesn't pay dividends. And so when we see a rate cut, we usually see the metal strengthen, especially silver. Because remember, silver is the bifurcated or the yin and the yang of metals. It's precious, but it's far more industrial now. So we see that metal come up. And that has, in my opinion, more strength to it than gold does at the moment for growth. And but I think you're exactly right. If we see some rate cuts, I think we're going to see a little sideways action in gold, and then after that, it's gonna have to make up its mind.
So we're talking about the relationship gold and silver. There is this big relationship out there that lots of traders, investors, people follow, the gold silver ratio.
Yes.
I don't want to say historically, but I know probably up until a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, that ratio was more in the range of, and correct me if I'm wrong, 60 to 1-ish, 50, 60 to 1-ish.
Yeah.
Okay, something like that. Well, and it has exploded and pretty much stayed there. Yeah. So if you were looking at a pairs trade, if you will, would you sell gold and buy silver?
Would I sell gold and buy silver? Yes, I would definitely.
So looking for that ratio, which is now, what is it, 90?
Yeah, it's blown up. I mean, basically, look, back in Tutankhamun's time during the pyramids, it was 1-to-1 and 2-to-1. During the French Revolution, we were at about 8 or 9 to 1. Maybe the turn of the 1800s, it was about 20 to 1. And then we went at current times up to 40 and 50 and hung there for quite a while. And now we've had this explosion of gold over silver. The reason I'm saying to you that I feel our viewers should be looking very hard at silver is that recently on another network, I said Silver is going
Oh, wait, that's good. You're calling us a network. Woo, we made it big time. Thank you.
Whenever I'm in front of a camera, it's usually a network, brother.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's look at it this way. Silver used to be 50% coins, flatware, jewelry, and then the other 50% was industrial usage. And, computer keyboards would be mixed with lead. It would be made into solder, things of that nature. I predicted that silver will go to 75 to 80% industrial soon. And
then you would think if that's the case, then we would see a big pop in the price of silver.
Well, we've had a big pop in silver now. We went from 18 to 32. That's a strong run.
Yes,
what I'm saying is when this comes into effect, which it's doing now, especially Mr. Musk just announced that he's going to be building a gigafactory, which is a brand new concept to make wafer chips, in which he's going to do 100,000 different chips, and they're all going to use silver, and without a doubt, So I'm saying in the future, along with colloidal suspensions that are used in China to make all of your solar arrays, we're going to see a firming of gold, whereas all dips will be purchased by COOs at firms for future usage. So you'll see strength coming into the back months in the futures because individuals are going to want delivery. And that's a whole new thing. It's really going to kind of change the real fabric of that market. And because of that, I always like to direct my customers, my people looking for my advice, into the thing that has the greatest growth potential, but possibly some strength as well. And I see that as being a great alternative.
Awesome. All right. Tell everybody about the Hunt brothers. Who were they? Why does everybody know about them? Why are they all, I don't want to say they're legends.
Well, they are.
If you're in the trading business, if you've ever stepped foot on a trading floor, then you might think of them as iconic. But tell us about them real quickly and what you did for them.
At one point, Bunker was the wealthiest man in the world. He and Khashoggi were in competition for who had the biggest amount of cash, And I was a young filling broker. My father spent 40 years on the floor and sponsored me to my membership. And so I was filling what's called the backs, which are lower volume and, getting broken in, rookie, kind of thing. But I had been a runner since I was 13. So I knew everybody and, it's sort of a natural position for me to step into. And I got an order that a kid ran in, a runner handed to me, and he goes, "Hey, this is a big spread, take a look at it." And I looked at it and it was backwards. It was inverted spread. He would have lost about 80, 90 grand. And this was many moons ago. That was a lot of money. So I either had a choice to make a lot of friends on the floor and hand that thing out or contact the individual. And the guy who was filling the orders was a desk clerk named Tim, who had just been picked up by the Chicago Cubs to be a catcher. He was a great guy, young Irish kid with the freckles and the whole thing. And I just loved him. And they would have fired him instantly for taking the order. So I waved him over. I gave the chop sign that I was leaving. I ran over. I said, "Give me the phone to this guy that gave me the order." So this gentleman picks up the phone, deep Southern accent. I said, "Sir," I said, I got to tell you this real quick. I go, "You've made a mistake. You put your order in backwards. You're going to get brutalized here." I said, "You don't know me. I'm Pete Thomas. And what I want to do is I want to invert this order and I want it to be a DRT." And he goes, "What the hell is that?" And I go, "It's broker's discretion. This is too big for back months. You're going to drive this thing limit up if I do this." And he goes, "Oh, okay." He goes, "You got a deal." I said, "Get it on a recorder." I handed it back to Tim, had the order redone, and I walked in. I filled the order over the day, got it back to him, right? And I was walking off the floor, and the clerk hands me the phone. He goes, "Hey, call." I go, "Oh, okay." I picked it up. This Southern guy says, So my name's Mr. Hunt. I said, well, nice to meet you, sir. I said, I got your order done. I didn't know who he was. I had no idea. And he said, everything's fine. He says, son, you're working for me now. And I said, oh, really? I go, I don't know how to break it to you, but I'm an independent broker. I own my ticket. I don't work for anybody. He says, no. He says, you're now working for me. He goes, you'll find out shortly what that means. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I found out in a hurry because we took silver from $418 to $50 over the course of being together. It was quite a ride,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there are, me, I was on the floor for 20 plus years. There's always unbelievable stories that we can all tell. But let me just tell everybody listening out here, that again, that may have ever stepped foot on the floor. If you had any interaction, any connection to the Hunt brothers, you want to listen in. You want to hear what happened. There's no question about that.
Oh yeah. It was a very unique time. At one time, the Fed came to me and they said, you're controlling 2/3 of the world's silver right now. And I said, I'm not controlling anything. I'm just filling orders, baby. This isn't coming out of my pocket.
That's so awesome.
I could stop pointing fingers at me. I'm just a filling broker, guys, But he had 2/3 of the world's silver in his,
it's almost not quantifiable.
I remember picking up the phone and 30, 40 years ago, I remember calling. I was going, hey, Bunker, I just bought some more silver. Could you send 30 million into your account? Oh, yes, sir. No problem. Just boom, it would come in and I was taking delivery, and at the time I had HSBC was doing a tremendous job for me, but I had almost filled their vault in New York. I mean, they were like, how much more are you going to bring in? I go, there's no limit to what I'm bringing in. I'm just keep stocking. They switched me over to another vault. It was like, it was a lot of metal.
That's awesome. That is unbelievable. So where can everybody find you besides on TV and your interviews and everything? Right. Where can, people want to know more about what you do?
I have, as you know, one of the things that I work very, very hard on is to help people not buy counterfeits, help people find legitimate dealers. It's one of the things I've been doing for years and years because I want integrity in a market is crucial to the market growing and surviving. So you can go to ausecure.com/Pete. And then there's some interviews with me. And there's also some of my recommendations onto what looks good currently that you might want to create a portfolio with. And if you like it, you just punch buy and we will ship it to you. And that's all there is to it. And we're pretty quick at getting stuff out. So, it's not going to be 2 months down the line. You're going to get a knock on the door,
That is great. ausecure.com, everybody. Pete, I can't thank you enough. This is great. And in the topic, everybody wants to know about gold right now.
Right.
So this is so timely. This is great. Yep. You bring in not just the technical side of things or even the fundamental side of things, but the real side of things so that the absolute novice, can really understand it. So this is great. I really appreciate your time.
You guys work to service your clients and bringing me in to kind of help them so they don't get caught. There's a software package called Veriscan, which is put out by PAMP, and you can pick up a PAMP bar, turn your phone on, scan the back of it, and it'll tell you when it was poured, if it's real or not, when it was shipped. It is amazing. You never have to worry about a counterfeit. And that's just my tip for today.
And you can buy that on Amazon or what?
It is let me tell you, Amazon does sell gold, and so does Costco.
So does Costco. That one hit the headlines.
Yep. And that gold at Costco has that software in it as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
thank you.
How to be careful? There you go. Right.
Always got to be looking over your shoulder. There's no question about that.
And one more quick tip for your people, because I respect what you're doing. I worked many years ago with Chuck at Schwab when he was moving into the future side, on buying metals in general. Make sure the company's been around for at least 10 years. When you get rallies like this, you get these shops pop up like mushrooms, and they disappear just as quickly. So if you're going, no matter who you reach out to, whether it's me or someone else, make sure they've been around for a while.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. It is my honor. It is a pleasure. This was really fantastic. Again, Peter Thomas, chairman at AU Secure. And really look forward. We'll catch up. We'll actually do one in person because I know we're both in Chicago. We'll have to meet up.
Oh, yeah. That'd be great. I'd love to come down to the studio for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Good luck, everyone.
The Minds of Markets podcast is an exploration, a deep dive into the minds of some of the best traders and investors in the market. Our goal is to help you, the listener, learn from some of the best out there to improve your knowledge and skill set as a trader or investor. The Minds of Markets podcast should be used for information and entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed in this podcast are our opinions only, and none of the information contained in this podcast constitutes a recommendation that any particular security, portfolio of security, transaction, or investment strategy is suitable for any specific person. Trading is risky, and past performance is not a guarantee of future results.